Now we'd like to give our attention to our circuit overseer as he presents the theme, If Your Right Hand Makes You Stumble.
Before we get into our subject, I'd like to take a look and see how we're doing as a congregation. As we mentioned on Tuesday night, we've increased in size, 130 publishers we have now. And look at our meeting attendance. We average 152 for our public meeting, well over 100%. 149 for the Watchtower study, still well over 100%. Now, we dropped down quite a bit for the school and service meeting, 114 for those two meetings. And then our book studies are least attended with 110. So, therefore, of course, we know the pressures of this wicked system during the week with our secular job may cause sometimes us to miss meetings. Well, we can pray to Jehovah God about that and see if we can make some type of an adjustment. Some are so determined to make the meetings that they're housebound, but they will listen over the phone. Now, of course, the phone is not for those who are not housebound. It's not for those who maybe just have a cold or something of that nature, but it's for those who are confined to the home for a period of time or maybe even permanently. So we do count those individuals as being present at our meetings. But what a fine example they set, not wanting to miss a meeting despite the fact they have serious health problems. So we also might take a look and see if we can increase during the week. We can learn a lot more, and don't we need to learn a lot more before the end of the system comes? However, during our meeting attendance is really very good. Field service is where we want to focus on. Our average hours is 7.8. Now, the circuit average is 8.9. We talked about this week the importance of having a schedule. We should know at the beginning of the month how much time we're going to have at least by the end of the month. Like we do with our secular job, we know. Someone asks, how many hours do you work a week? Oh, I work 40 hours a week. You haven't worked them yet, but you know you're going to work 40 hours because you schedule that in. Well, of course, our theocratic service is more important than our secular work. So try to add 1 hour. If we were to add 1 hour, we would be just about to the circuit average. That's 15 minutes a week. So while you're out and you decide, well, I think I'll go in, why not stop and wait, let me spend 15 minutes more this week. And we'll find that our average will increase simply by doing that. Our magazines are at 5.4. The circuit average is 6.7. Return visits are 2.5. And the circuit is at 3.1. And here's a really, really strange figure. Despite the fact that our hours and return visits and magazines are low, our Bible studies are above the circuit average. We're 0.4, which no one has a higher average than that. Circuit average is 0.3. That might indicate that we may not be counting all of our return visits, perhaps. You get one every time you have a Bible study, so we want to keep that in mind, too. And when you talk to someone on the job that you talked to previously, that's a return visit on that person. So we might want to go back to the OD book and find out just what a return visit is, and that might find that we can increase in our return visits. Okay, now to our subject. I'm going to tell you about a man in Illinois who was working in this machine shop one day. Very powerful piece of machinery. But suddenly his hand got caught in the machine. And this particular machine would pull whatever went in, and it began to smash his hand. He couldn't get loose. As the machine continued to pull his hand further in, of course, his hand is attached to his arm, so something had to be done sooner or later. He had a sharp instrument close by, and he grabbed it and he cut off his hand below the elbow. so he can save his life. Now, some heard about that, and they were applauding him, saying, my, I couldn't do that. That was a brave thing to do. He said, what do you mean brave? I had no choice. You would do the same thing in that situation. Would we do the same thing? Not physically, but in a very, very important way that will mean our life, our everlasting life. Jesus used a fine illustration about taking such drastic actions. Let's take our Bibles together to Matthew chapter 5. And note the point Jesus makes here at verse 29. If now that right eye of yours is making you stumble, tear it out and throw it away from you. For it is more beneficial to you for one of your members to be lost to you than for your whole body to be pitched into Gehenna. Also, if your right hand is making you stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you. For it is more beneficial to you for one of your members to be lost than for your whole body to land in Gehenna. Now, do we appreciate what Jesus is saying? One man in upper state New York, he read this, he thought he understood, so he cut his hand off. That's not what Jesus was talking about. Jesus was using a form of hyperbole. That is an exaggeration to make a point. The point is, if something that is truly valuable to us and loved by us is causing us trouble that our life could be lost, better to do away with it. Why did Jesus mention your right eye? What's the difference? Your right eye, left eye, probably using them equally, right? You specified the right hand. Well, most of us are right-handed, but some aren't. The right side is symbolic of the side of favor, side of great importance, because remember, where does Jesus sit? At God's right hand. Now, obviously, Jesus does not really sit at God's right hand. There are no chairs in heaven. They don't need chairs. But the expression he is sitting at God's right hand refers to him being at a place of great importance and the side of favor. So that's why Jesus uses the right eye and the right hand here. So if there is something that is like our right hand or our right eye, it's causing us trouble, temptations, hard to part with it because we become used to them, then are we willing to take drastic action to save our life, our everlasting life? What might be your right hand? For some of us, our right hand might be our music. Music can be your right hand. Something that could cause us to stumble. Now, because most of us like music, we may have a collection. Our collection may go way back, and we may be proud to share our collection. And it's fine to have good music. But it's all music good? Note what is said about one type of music, rap music. This is from the Watchtower of 97. The July 15th issue, pages 16 and 17, sometimes called hip-hop. Many of us are surprised that it lasted as long as it has. But very interestingly, it says, by and large, heavy metal and rap music promote such vices as profanity, fornication, and even Satanism. Can you imagine a Christian listening to music of that nature? Here's what one individual said. This is from the Watchtower of 93, April 15th issue. on page 21. This is a reviewer, not a witness, but a reviewer, describing a rap concert. He says the rap singers vied with one another for shock appeal with profanity and explicit sexual lyrics. Male and female dancers simulated sex acts on the stage. Every other word out of their mouth was obscene. Now, you know what's sad about that? It's reported that among the 4,000 and more youths in attendance were some who claimed to be Jehovah's Witnesses. They went to that concert. Now, we know how Jehovah's organization feels about such types of music. On an application that one may submit to go to Bethel, the question is raised on the back, does the applicant listen to heavy metal or rap music or any other type that's not appropriate for a Christian? And then it says, if so, please explain why. It's kind of hard to explain why you listen to that kind of music, isn't it? So music may be your right hand. That is, you become used to it. You may hear it in school, may hear it at work, in the neighborhood. Now it's so near and dear to your heart, hard to part with it. On the other hand, maybe it's not rap music, because some of us may think, oh, I don't listen to that kind of music. I listen to the oldies, you see. I stick with those, dusties as some call them. But was all that music good? Let me tell you what happened to me a few years ago. I was a youngster. I was in the car. Brother was driving, and the radio was on, and my song came on the radio. I said, oh, that's my song. I reached over, turn the radio up a little bit so I could hear my song, And the brother said, oh, that's a bad song. I'm thinking, what's he talking about? That's my song. I like that song. I said, what's wrong with the song? It's a nice little love song, is all it was. Well, the name of the song was Me and Mrs. Jones. Now, some of you may not be familiar with the song. But at any rate, he said, listen to the words, and the words went like this, me and Mrs. Jones, we got a thing going on. And the brother said, now, who is that got a thing going on with Mrs. Jones? I thought, oh, Mr. Jones. I'm thinking, obviously. He said, no, that's not what it's talking about. Listen to the whole song. And the more I listened, the worse it sounded. It was a terrible song. I couldn't believe I could like a song like that. But you know what it is? It's not really the words, because oftentimes we don't pay half attention. A lot of times we don't even know the words. We'll sing a song and make up part of the lyrics as we go along, as long as it rhymes, so that we just throw it in there. But that's what Satan, the devil, is banking on. Because now you'll be so tied to that song, you start making excuses or trying to clean it up in your own mind. Exactly, it's not really saying what it sounds like, but it is saying what it sounds like because it contains the thoughts and feelings of people in this wicked world. So what we might need to do is to broaden out, and as far as our music is concerned, don't confine ourselves to one particular type of music. There are some types that we should not have anything at all to do with, such as rap music and heavy metal. There are others we need to be more selective. And we'll find that there is plenty of music to listen to without disobeying Jehovah God and his organization. Now, here's what some have done because music is so near and dear to their heart. This collection they have, so they determine, I'm not going to listen to that one anymore. I'm going to take that one and put it in the closet. What for? What does the scripture say? Cut it off and throw it away from you. Because if you don't do that, you save it, next thing you know, you'll find yourself going right back to it again. Cut it off. Throw it away. it's not worth your everlasting life. Now for others, their right hand is alcohol. Alcoholic beverages. Like music, we want to have a balanced view of alcoholic beverages. So we want to get your assistance here on this. And we'd like you to comment. You don't have to tell us what the scripture is. Give us the principle or whatever. How do we know that it's not wrong to drink alcoholic beverages? Please, Brother Evans. Very good. Excellent point. Other points, Brother Lau. Okay, yes. What's the law? Brother Sims.
Yeah. I think Peter said a little wine's good for your stomach, but not a whole jug full.
Okay. He's gone a little far. Okay. All right. Sister Braggs. Very first miracle he performed, see? Very good. Please, my brother.
It says that we may not drink to drunkenness.
So it condemns drunkenness, not drinking alcohol. Jesus himself drank. Recall how, as was mentioned, his first miracle, recorded miracle turning water into fine wine. So he must have known what fine wine tasted like to provide it. A gift from Jehovah. However, sometimes we find individuals may go too far with the use of alcohol. Note this point. This is from the Watchtower of 83, April 15th issue. And it's on page 25. It says, what constitutes moderate use of alcohol? A set limit cannot be recommended for all people because individual factors such as general health and body weight can determine the effect of alcohol on your system. But in determining what constitutes moderation, beware of making excuses. It is so easy to conclude that unwelcome counsel applies to others, not to us. But if everyone thought that way, that counsel would apply to nobody. Now it makes a very interesting point in this same article about how some have been affected by alcohol. Talks about what happened some years ago in a Latin American country. There was a wedding reception. It lasted until the wee hours of the morning, with drinking all night long. The wedding reception was for witnesses. It resulted in the removal of the entire body of elders and ministerial servants of one congregation. Now can we see how Satan the devil could use alcohol against Jehovah's people? So we want to be careful. We want to, if we do choose to drink, please drink with moderation. Do all we can to find out if we're drinking too much. Now here's a point to keep in mind. Individuals who drink too much usually don't think they drink too much. So therefore, just by saying, well, I don't think I drink too much, that doesn't really answer the question. If we are in a habit of drinking on a regular basis, well, stop drinking on a regular basis for a while to see if we may have an addiction to it. And then we'll have the real picture, see. But when it comes to the use of alcohol, we don't have to use it on every occasion. For example, some years ago, we were in Detroit serving there, and a brother in the congregation, and one of the congregations that we serve, called me, and he said he wanted to confess to an act of wrongdoing. He said, I got drunk the other night. And I asked him what happened. He said, well, I'm an alcoholic. I haven't had a drink for many years. But I got invited to a gathering, see. It's a Christian gathering. And everybody was drinking. So I thought I can just have one with everybody else. He said, now I'm back on the bottle again. So be careful when we have a large gathering. So many of our brothers and sisters worked hard to break free from alcohol addiction. We don't want to enslave them again by pressuring them to drink. So if alcohol is your right hand, cut it off. Throw it away from you. It's not worth your everlasting life. Now, Jesus also said if your right eye makes you stumble, cut it off. What might be your right eye? It could be the television set. Television could be your right eye. In fact, if you look at the right channel, CBS, there's an eye looking right back at you when you look at it. That might be your right eye right there. Now, we're not here to condemn television. I watch television. Probably the vast majority of us here watch television. However, there's a limit to how much we should watch. Is it affecting our children? Note this interesting situation. Some years ago, a psychologist in Virginia put this question to children aged 4 to 6 years old over a 2-year period. The question is, which do you like better, TV or daddy? Over 40% chose TV over daddy. 20% said TV is better than mommy, too. Television is a real rival to a father and mother's attention, to the affection of the child. It can be so addictive. In fact, note this poem entitled The Bible and the TV Guide. It goes like this. On the table, side by side, sits the Bible and the TV Guide. One is well worn but cherished with pride. That's not the Bible, that's the TV Guide. One is used daily to help folks decide. Not the Bible, but the TV Guide. As the pages are turned, what shall they see? Oh, it doesn't matter, just turn on the TV. Then confusion starts as they all can't agree on what they should watch on the old TV. The Word of God is seldom read. Maybe a verse before they fall in bed, exhausted and sleepy and tired as can be, not from reading the Bible, but from watching TV. Yes, television. It's very strong. It can affect us. Interesting what one witness said about television. Became addicted to it. He said, I find television almost irresistible. When the television set is on, I cannot ignore it. I can't turn it off. As I reach out to turn it off, the strength goes out of my arms. So I sit there for hours and hours. Now, our addiction may not be to that extent, but it could be that we're spending more time watching TV than we are thinking about Jehovah God or talking about Jehovah God. It could be that we can't increase that extra 15 minutes a week because we're spending that time in front of the television. Now, you have to be truthful. There's not really that much good on the watch. Now, those of us who have some age on us remember a time when there really was only 3 channels. You know, you had ABC, NBC, you had CBS, you see. If you got all 3, that's what you had. And there was more things on TV then than there is now to watch. Even though now we have channel 500 and you can't find something decent to watch. Satan's world. That sly devil will get us to watch things that we should not. Here's the way to analyze your TV habits. Some things to think about. Do you turn on the TV the minute you get home? Does it stay on until bedtime or the wee hours of the morning? Do you watch programs that you don't even like? If so, beware. These are but a few of the telltale signs of what some have called TV addiction. Some have gotten rid of their televisions. They became so addicted. And all of a sudden, they found they had plenty of time to do other things that they really want to do. What else could we do other than watch television? Here's a list of things in the Awake of 85, February 22nd issue, on page 20. Things we can do instead of watching television. Talk with friends. Play music, not rap music, of course. Engage in outdoor sports. So much sports is now played on the television screen. Visit local places of interest. Go to museums, go to zoos, go to aquariums. How often do we hear, oh, I lived here for so many years. I've never been to that zoo. I've never been to that aquarium. Well, now we'll have time. Learn to play a musical instrument. Learn a language, as we've been talking about this week. Here's a nice one. Learn to cook. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Learn to sew. Help with household chores. Write letters. Learn basic auto repair. The list just goes on and on and on. There are plenty of things to do if we have the time, and we would have the time if we limit how much time we spend watching television. So if television is your right eye, tear it out, Jesus said. Throw it away from you. It's not worth your everlasting life. For others, their right hand is their friends. Bad association spoils useful habits. We know that well. If we're not careful, we could develop such close friendship with those who do not love Jehovah, it will be hard for us to tear ourselves away from them. Even though their conduct, their speech may be bad. Sometimes we find that these family ties are strong too in some cultures. Some feel, well, I associate a lot with my worldly family members who don't love Jehovah. And as the expression goes, they say, well, blood's thicker than water. Not baptism water. Baptism water brings us closer together than any family relationship out there. Let's take a look at Jesus' example at Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 3, notice what happens at verse 31. It says, now his mother and his brothers came, and as they were standing on the outside, they sent in to him to call him. As it was, a crowd was sitting around him. So they said to him, look, your mother and your brothers outside are seeking you. But in reply, he said to them, who are my mother and my brothers? And having looked about upon those sitting around him in a circle, he said, see, my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of God, this one is my brother and sister and mother. That's how Jesus felt. Do you feel the same way? Or could it be that we become so tied to those who do not love Jehovah, it's hard for us to be balanced in our association? Now, did Jesus not associate at all with his family? Did he not care about them? Well, certainly he did. Take a look at John chapter 2 and note Jesus' balanced way of handling the situation of having unbelieving family members. Chapter 2 and verse 12. After this, he and his mother and brothers and his disciples went down to Capernaum, but they did not stay there many days. You notice what Jesus does here? He spent time with his family. And on these occasions, of course, they spent time together, but they didn't stay too long. He didn't stay many days. And on many occasions, you'll find that his family even thought he was going crazy. That's why he didn't stay there with them many days. So we also want to take time to associate with our family, because how are we going to help them learn the truth? And who did Jesus visit after his death and resurrection? Wasn't it family members? And finally James, of course, and Jude came into the truth. But now, who do we spend the bulk of our time with? Some worldly neighbors, too, as well as relatives, may be friendly and helpful, though they have consistently shown neither interest in spiritual things nor a love for righteousness. How can it affect us? Paying of taxes. Their views on paying of taxes could rub off on us. They may feel that at tax time, underreporting income or business profits is justified. They might even speak persuasively about their views over a casual cup of coffee or a brief visit. And next thing you know, we are repeating the same things that they're repeating about the paying of taxes, or about other matters too that can rub off on us. So be very careful if your worldly friends are tied to your heart. Do what Jesus said. Although it may be difficult, cut it off. Throw it away from you. It's not worth your everlasting life. One more. Your right hand might be your job. Your job could be hindering your spiritual progress. Now, economic conditions may leave us little choice but to work long hours. And this wicked system is becoming very difficult to make it. But do we take on work merely to get ahead or to accumulate luxuries at the expense of our field activity or even of our theocratic ministry school and service meeting or book study? Note what one sister, Debbie, says. Her husband's also in the truth. She said, our financial situation had changed, and there was no longer a real need for me to continue working full time. But it was hard to give up. Why? She said, I liked my job. I loved my job. But I had to face reality. Saturday was my only free day to do housework after working all during the week. And then I just did not feel like going out in field service. So therefore, she was faced with the only solution she can come up with. She quit the job. She didn't need it anymore. So she quit the job. So we want to ask ourselves a similar question. Do I really need to work, or am I working for the extras? Is it affecting my field activity, limiting what I can do in Jehovah's service? Is it affecting my meeting attendance during the week? We may feel good because we come to all the meetings on the weekend. But if we didn't need the meetings during the week, Jehovah wouldn't give them to us. So therefore, Satan, the devil, knows that we need all these meetings. And he also knows it's very unlikely he's going to stop us from going to all of them. But he can get us to limit how much spiritual food we take in and how much good association we have. So if your job is your right hand, cut it off. Throw it away from you. It's not worth your everlasting life. Now, the list that we have given today does not include everything that might cause us problems, that might stumble us. You may have something else in particular that is causing you some problem. If so, think about the man who willingly parted with his hand to save his life. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's necessary. So whether it is our job, or whether it is our friends, or if it's our television set, or if it's alcohol, or if it's music, or any other thing, cut it off. Throw it away from you. It's not worth your everlasting life. Well, we look forward to this weekend, spending a few more hours with you in the ministry. Of course, we have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday left. So if you haven't had the opportunity to join us for our final visit, the final turnaround, come on out. You may not be able to spend the full morning or the full day, but do what you can. You may receive a blessing this week, making yourself available. We're going to close our meeting by inviting all to take their song books in hand